Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Season 8 of Stand Up and Stand Out para te y desticate. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Nikki Green. Throughout the past 8 seasons, we have worked to showcase some incredible guests with eclectic backgrounds so you can see that success comes in many shapes and sizes. On our path to episode 100, we have some new inspiring interviews to celebrate this important milestone of our podcast. As I add retreats into my coaching program, I'm looking forward to meeting more of you in person and connecting with you beyond the podcast. I hope you enjoy Season 8, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and comments on the fascinating topics we will cover with each new guest.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stand Up and Stand Out para te y desticate. You're never going to guess who is on the show in today's episode. You might have seen us together in a previous edition of her Fulfill Your Calling Summit, or maybe you saw us in one of the many, many adventures of the James Lamb Show. Welcome, Christene Sismondo, to Stand Up and Stand Out.
Thank you, Nikki. It's exciting to be here. Always wonderful to be in the shared spaces with you.
Yeah, I was remembering that we sort of met each other at JVX last October. There was like a lot of people there. So like met each other was like, I saw you across the room.
That's so crazy. Yeah, that was a very full event with lots of connections made.
Yeah. So I love, getting to know you over the past, almost year now. That was last October. So that's kind of crazy to think. And just learning more about like the business that you do and how you help people and a little bit about your career journey. So I'd love to just hand the mic over to you for a little bit and maybe share a little bit about what you do to help people and how you got here.
Oh my goodness. It's such a long story, but I'll try to keep it short, Nikki. So my business is the Spiritual Women's Academy, and the whole purpose of the Spiritual Women's Academy is to help spiritual women entrepreneurs like healers, holistic practitioners, coaches who are on the woo side to find, create, and fulfill their calling. So I have this big mission. I don't know if I've ever shared it with you, actually. So my mission is to help spread health, healing, and empowerment across the globe, and ultimately to make natural health and healing widely known and accessible to all. So I have like these really big visions of things like creating an insurance company, like down the line, where you would have to maintain self-care in order to keep your insurance. Like I've got all these crazy big ideas, but honing in on the now, the way that I am creating that ripple effect is really supporting other spiritual women entrepreneurs who are helping others with personal empowerment and health and healing to help create that deeper ripple effect. And that's been super, super rewarding. How did I get here though? That's the long story. And so again, I'm like, how am I going to say this succinctly? It started when I was sick on the playground by a little kindergartner who was 1 year younger than me, asking me to teach her to do spins and tricks on the bars. She had never even sat on a bar, and I was sitting there doing all these different kinds of tricks. And it was just this crazy day where she comes and says, "Can you teach me how to do that?" And I said, yes. Having never taught anybody to do anything, I said yes. And we literally spent every single recess for weeks. You know, they have like 2 or 3 recesses every single day. So for weeks working on step by step, this whole process of how to take her from where she was, having never sat on a bar, to where I was going 360 degrees around the bar, all sorts of different ways. So that moment that little girl went 360 degrees around the bar, it was just like my chest exploded. I never felt a sensation like the joy I felt in that moment. I felt so passionate, so full of pride and excitement and enthusiasm for her success. And then just such this deep honor, like to have been a part of that process. So I like to say I became a coach at 6.
You got to start them young, right?
And then it just grew from there. I mentored people in class and everything. I thought that meant I wanted to be a teacher. And then I went all the way 17 years, literally the next 17 years, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And then going through the community college, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. It took me, this is not something to be proud of, but it took me 8 years to get all the way through college because the first 4 years were all spent going very part-time while working full-time. And then I transferred after 4 years to the university, the whole time thinking I was going to be a teacher, trying to do everything I could to just smooth sail into the ed program when I got there. Then when I arrived, they were basically like, no, sorry, you didn't take the right path. And so you actually have an entire year of prerequisites. I about died, Nikki. I about died. So I was like, okay, well, if that's the case, I'm going to double down. So I volunteered in the elementary schools. I volunteered in the middle schools. I volunteered in the high schools. I got a job in the elementary school. I got a job as an after school program assistant coordinator. So I was like all in. And there was a moment when I was like, after I had volunteered at all these different levels, where I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be a teacher. Now what? So I had to do some major soul searching and figure out, okay, what were the things that led me to want to be a teacher in the first place? And what the heck could I do with my career that would fulfill those things that made me want to teach in the first place? So I won't go into the whole journey, but it was twists and turns through the corporate business world for 17 years. And then I found energy healing. And then I left the corporate world to do energy healing. And then I failed at getting my business up off the ground. And then COVID hit, so I couldn't work hands-on, and my life entirely crumbled. You know, for your people, they're probably familiar with personal development and the wheel of life. So for me, when COVID hit, it was literally every area of life that was impacted by certain events. Not specific, some of them were specific to COVID, but some of them were not. It's just stuff that happened during COVID, right? And literally every single area of my life was impacted. So I went through this super deep spiritual depression that at the time I had no words to describe other than a soul death. And it was through that experience, which now I've heard of, it's called the dark night of the soul, which I actually don't love that term because it was so far from just a night. Through that experience, it just led me to bring in all aspects of myself and to come into creating and founding the Spiritual Women's Academy, through which I bring in all those aspects, the aspects of teaching, the aspects of business development and everything I was doing with marketing and operations in the business world, the aspects of energy healing and supporting people emotionally on their spiritual and emotional journeys of entrepreneurship. So it's been a windy road.
I think that's perfect though, because most of our paths are windy. We get told this kind of lie that it's linear, that all of a sudden you do one, the next thing happens, and it all just sort of falls into place. And the more people that I interview on this podcast that have some description like yours, that there's a left and a right and two rights and a left and a U-turn, and it's fun. Like, I think this is the beautiful part about also normalizing that journey, and that there is a bit of exploration, because when you're told there's one path and there's only like 5 little boxes and teachers one of them, you just sort of follow that thing because you don't know what else to do, especially getting the calling so young. And coming from a family of educators, I can definitely relate that, like, you think like, okay, well, if I like to teach, I must want to be a teacher. You don't really know all the different nuances that could be happening. But I really think it's fantastic how you combine that experience in your corporate world. Even if that wasn't the right thing for you at the time, there's still things you learned that you can use to benefit your clients now, which are probably things they may be lacking because of whatever their background is. So I think this is really actually the perfect story for our audience to really help them on their journey at all, no matter where they're at and their twists and turns and trying to get right back to where they are and sitting with it, even in those really dark times, to think back of like, there were some good moments. Let's find those, let's pull them out. And how do we put those good moments together? So I love that you have this, the name of it, the Spiritual Women's Academy. Maybe share a little bit more about like how you help people through that, because I think it's such a great idea and there's so many aspects to it.
Yeah, so it's still in its early stages, but my intention is to have 2 tracks. Right now, I'm focusing on the business track, but I'm also looking for collaborative. So I really love collaboration. So I'm looking for some collaborative opportunities to build out the healing side, to both be able to certify healers and coaches and things of that nature in the on the spiritual path side. But right now my focus is on the business side. So I work with, again, healers, holistic practitioners, and coaches who consider themselves spiritual or woo, and supporting them in really developing a business that is in alignment with their soul's calling and their soul's path. And part of that is bringing in all of the elements of them into a unified thing that they can serve through moving forward. And for a lot of them, there's a lot of lack of clarity around what that could even look like, because they're like me, oh, I loved teaching and I had an interest in massage and like all these different things that were parts of me, part of my journey. The marketing, I did database management and website development and all these different things in the corporate world. And I was like, how does that apply to energy healing when I left corporate to focus on that? But then what I realized through my journey was when I left corporate to start my energy healing practice, it was sort of like chopping off a right leg. Like all of a sudden my right leg is the more powerful leg, right? And I suddenly am having a hard time moving forward in that business because I'm leaving a huge part of myself behind thinking, oh, all of those 17 years of business experience is solely for me, when really the universe was like, no, you've got it all wrong. I didn't give you that for you. Duh. I gave you that so that you could then serve the world with those, unique tools, experiences, gifts, everything that you gained through that experience. So because of my own journey, I support my people in first finding the calling, bringing in all the different elements of themselves, getting clarity on what I call the heart of your business. So it's 5 core foundational components that I believe are essential for every spiritual based business. One is getting clarity on your desires. You've got to know how your desires play into like how this business is going to serve and fulfill your own soul, how it's going to support your inner circle, your family, your friends, like what's that next ripple effect, right? And then also how it's going to serve the world at large, as well as what are the things that I'm going to be doing in my business and the way that I'm going to be supporting, fulfilling the calling. Like it's all the gifts and how am I going to build the business in a way that I get to use my zone of genius and support that ripple effect outward. So it starts with desires. The second thing is really extracting the essence of you. You've got to really know what's valuable about you. And I feel that so many of my clients have a hard time owning their own value. There's such a sense, earlier I mentioned like the spiritual and emotional journey of entrepreneurship. It really is. There's such a sense of things like, I don't want to be rejected. I don't feel good enough. Like all of those things that they just get wrapped up in keeping us held back in that journey of entrepreneurship. So extracting that essence of you is so vital, and understanding what are the things that are unique about you as a human being, not even from a doing standpoint, but from a being standpoint. And that also leans into your branding and how you present yourself to the world and the colors you choose and like all of those things. So helping with that essential quality of who you are and allowing that to exude out through your brand. And then the third thing is you're assessing what your soul calling abilities are. And that's the doing bit, really getting clear on what the things are that are unique about you that aren't the being part, but the doing, the love of I get to do this and I get to do that in my business and I get to do this in my business. And I really focus on the I get to. And so when I work with my clients, it's a lot of exploration of in my business, I get to do this so that it is coming from that place of fulfillment. And then the fourth thing, the R, is your right fit clients. And you've got to reveal who your right fit client is. For me, I believe that this whole life is all about relationships. It's relationship with self, relationship with the divine, relationship with other people, relationship with nature. Everything is this like dichotomy, the connection between things. And so in business, I feel that it's no different. I feel like there is us and we have a certain set of skills and knowledge and wisdom and experiences that we can provide to our right fit client. And I think of it like a figure eight. So we can provide it to our right fit client, and our right fit client is going to receive the things that we have to give and then the giving back isn't necessarily in serving us, but it's in witnessing their progress, in witnessing their growth, in the way that they value and appreciate what it is that we had to offer. So there's this beautiful reciprocity between the figure eight of you and your right fit clients. You have to really reveal who that is so that you know how to market to them, speak to them, and attract them using their language, because language also has a resonance. There's a vibration, a frequency, just like your branding and the colors, like everything is energy from my perspective. So getting in alignment with the energetics of your right fit client to be able to call in and magnetically attract your soul calling client. And then the last is the T in heart of your business is then transforming all of that, honing in on your heart's desires, extracting the essence of you. So H, E, and then assessing your soul calling abilities, and then R, revealing your right fit client. You take all of that, you hear the whispers of your soul, HEAR, and then you transform all of that into tailored offers. So back to that figure eight pattern, I feel that the connection, the conduit through which those two things are connected is the offer. And that offer is all built upon the essence of you, your right fit client, your desires, all of those things we just talked about. So I really work deeply with my clients on alignment and getting clear on the heart of their business and what their soul calling is before we ever go into creation. Because what I've noticed is that we are in such a doing masculine, go, 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 do, achieve society that we want to skip ahead. We just want to skip right ahead above all of that figuring out stuff. It's such a watery phase. My clients often use watery words like, oh, I just feel like I'm treading water, or I'm in the mist, like it's such a watery phase. And we really want to move into, in Chinese medicine, that wood phase of like that exponential growth, right? But we can't really step into creation until we have that foundation of clarity, at least clear enough to be able to move forward. So that's typically how I work with my client.
It's so beautiful and so clear. And I think especially when it comes to, the creative side of things, the woo side of things, there's a lot of kind of ethereal parts of it where sometimes it's hard to make it tangible. But I really love the visual way that you bring these pieces together so that it does resonate with them. They're not, getting, like you said, sort of over bro marketing, like that it doesn't quite fit with what they're trying to do. And I hear that from a lot of people where they're just like, man, that coaching style, that thing, it just didn't make sense to me or it doesn't resonate. And I really love that you are meeting them where they are. You're sharing your expertise across all these different areas and giving them this real cool, like synchronicity between the two pieces, the business piece and the spirituality piece, to intersect and find that place for them where they are going to do their best work. I think it's just incredibly, it's a way to get them to be successful, and get them to keep leaning in every time they want to lean out, because it is the hard part, is really setting that foundation in the beginning. But if you don't do that, you're never going to get to where you need to be. And so I think getting so many of us to just step back, take that pause, do that piece well, and then you're going to set yourself up for so much more success after that. Just really incredible stuff. When I watched your talk during the summit, I was really just loving all of that, the visual part and the language you use. Like you said, even just saying get tos instead of have tos, mentally putting yourself in the right place of, I enjoy what I do, and this is really my zone of genius. So that's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Well, and thank you for sharing, your journey of just all the different pieces that come together to build this. I think one of the other pieces I hear from many of folks is whatever their original kind of experience and career was, a lot of us, especially during COVID, ran screaming from it. Like, how far can I get away? Because there was a toxicity or trauma, or it just didn't, fit their life anymore. And I think when you feel that, you are, like you said, losing a limb, where all of a sudden you're not able to get forward because you're starting from almost like a baby crawling all over again.
That's exactly it.
So I love that you share that piece, so visually again, so that people can say, like, we're all in this. This is part of that transformation. But maybe we don't need to chop off the limb. Maybe we can find ways.
No, yeah, bring it all together. Bring all the parts of you. For me, I didn't love the corporate world, but that doesn't mean that I didn't learn a ton there and have a huge amount of knowledge, wisdom, and resources to provide and support other people with. So bringing forward the things that really are your unique knowledge, wisdom, and experiences to serve and support others. And I think, and so your people, a lot of them come from corporate. Is that correct?
Yeah, a lot of people are transitioning from different career. A lot of teachers that are burnt out, a lot of nurses that are burnt out, people that have had long careers and did fairly well at them. But again, just at some point, you just lose that luster for what it was that maybe got you into it. And especially because of my tech background, I end up I get a lot of people transitioning out of corporate as well. But there's always that thread of whatever it was, they all want to do the same thing I did, which is also run streaming from it.
Yeah, there is a tendency to just want to just like leave it all behind and chop it off and forget that it ever existed. And yeah, I definitely, for sure, one of my big lessons in all of this was you can't chop it off, and it's hard to move forward without bringing it forward with you, and at least the parts that resonate, right? To keep and hold dear the parts that are still part of who you are and why you got there in the first place.
I think especially since most of us don't make some sort of widget, like we don't sell products. We may have a few products that we sell, but in general, it's a service-based business. And that means we're selling a piece of ourselves or our knowledge, our experience to share. And that we have to be very transparent and honest about who we are and what those gifts are, and leverage as many of them as possible to help as many people as possible. So getting people to really find that truth in themselves and lean into all those experiences, good, bad, and ugly, I think is what can help us help more people in the long run.
Yeah, but what's really hard is a lot of times I like to say we can't see our own eyes unless we have a mirror, right? So, and it's so true. We can't truly see ourselves for our own unique value. It's hard sometimes to recognize what those gifts even are because they come so naturally, so innately. They're things that you've done your whole life, things that you would do anytime for anyone and not even ask to be paid for it. So then when you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to ask to be paid for this thing that comes so easy that I should just be giving away for free. Then there's that value stuff that comes into play. And there's just so much. That's so much.
Well, I know our audience is going to want to reach out to you to learn more. And I know you also have a free gift for us. So before we sign off, why don't you let people know where they can reach you? And we'll also drop a link to your free gift into the show notes.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, just facebook.com/Christene Sismondo. That's where you can connect with me more personally. Of course, you can go to my website, thespiritualwomensacademy.com. But what I would really love is for you, if you have a soul calling or you have a soul calling based business, is for you to go to evolunahealing.com. Evoluna Healing is my previous business before I rebranded as the Spiritual Women's Academy and really took the dive into bringing my right leg back. So Evoluna Healing, EVOLUNA healing.com/assessment. And when you go there, there's a soul calling business assessment that you can take that will help you just figure out where the gaps are, where you are in your business development process. And it'll help you get clear on where you need to go and what's kind of in between, what's missing, what's the next step for you. So I highly recommend that you take that. Everybody who takes it just has such clarity and gets such great awareness from taking that assessment.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. That's so kind of a gift. And I love just every time I get to know you a little bit more and spend a little bit more time with you. I just really love the energy. And I think that there's lots of ways for us to continue collaborating together. So can't wait to see what the rest of this year and the future brings. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks so much, Nikki. Yeah, likewise. It definitely a strong resonance with you. And I'm so grateful to have met you through the James Lamb community and look forward to our collaborations that follow.
Awesome. Well, everyone, if you liked this episode, please don't hesitate to ring the bell, whatever the thing is on the platform that you love to watch and listen to your podcast. And if you would like to listen to next week's episode, don't forget to follow us where all the cool kids hang out that do podcasts. Bye.
Thanks for listening and celebrating our 8th season and 100th episode. We hope you've enjoyed this week's show. Please don't forget to share your thoughts on this topic with us across our social channels. You can find them at the NikkiGreen360.com. TTFN, this is Nikki signing off.